Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings for Friday, September 7th. We do have a full loaded slate on Friday, 14 games. Feels good to have a nice big slate after what we had yesterday, just that 3-game slate. Pretty annoying. Finally got a lot to talk about today. Definitely a loaded pitching slate. We have 5 guys that are over 10K on DraftKings. You got Snell, Nola, Carrasco, Corbin, and Garrett Cole. Then you got a lot of other good pitchers: Paxton, Tanaka, David Price, Kershaw's pitching in cores, even like Rodon you got down there, 8,300. Loaded pitching slate. Stacks-wise, I'm not seeing a ton of stacks that really stand out to me. We'll get there, though. We'll talk about the stacks I like, the bats I like, go through BVP as well. But before we do get started, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching the video, would really appreciate it if you would give the video a like. It really means a lot. But yeah, let's go ahead and start off. Look at our pitchers for today. Up top, we have Blake Snell, who gets a great matchup at home against the Orioles. I can't really avoid Blake Snell here. It's just too good of a matchup. Snell's been great this year. As of late, he's been great. Tough matchup. His last start against Cleveland, he still went out there and really performed well. 6 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts, 29 DraftKings points. We saw Snell, at least in his last 3 starts, he's fully stretched out. Even coming off the DL, we saw him kind of be limited, just wasn't throwing a ton of pitches. His last 3 starts, 101, 89, and 101 pitches. So Snell's fully stretched out. He could possibly go 7, 8 innings here against this Orioles team, rack up double-digit Ks, pitch a shutout. 30, 35, maybe even 40 DraftKings points is a possibility for Snell here. I think he has the highest upside on this slate. It's just too good of a matchup. The Orioles strike out so much. They have the lowest implied run total on the slate at 2.7 runs. Snell is easily my favorite pitcher. You do have Aaron Nola, also in a really good spot against the Mets. I definitely like Nola today, but Snell, this matchup's just too good for Snell. I can't avoid him here, and he's, like I said, my number 1 pitcher. I will have exposure to Nola, not as much as I have to Snell. Snell's going to be my highest owned pitcher, most likely on this slate. Carrasco, don't think I'll have much exposure to Carrasco because I'd just rather play Nola. Don't have much interest in Corbin at 11K. If he was cheaper, maybe I'd have interest in him, but at 11K, I don't think I'm going to be going there. And then Garrett Cole just has too tough of a matchup against Boston. Even though Cole's cheap, I can't play Garrett Cole at 10-2 against Boston. Just not the right matchup for me. So at pitcher up top, at least, I'm definitely going to be heavy on Snell, have a lot of exposure to Snell. I'll have a little Nola as well. Maybe a couple sprinkles of Carrasco, but not much. It's mostly going to be Snell and Nola up top. And then in the mid-range, we'll kind of look in this mid-tier. Like this 8K range, 9K range, not a lot I love. A lot of guys here have tough matchups. Paxton has to face the Yankees. Don't know if I want to play Paxton there. Tanaka on the other side, tough matchup against the Mariners. David Price has to face the Astros. Kershaw has to pitch in cores, even though Kershaw's cheap. I don't know if I really want to play him in cores. Carlos Rodon against the Angels, I don't really like that matchup. But Rodon has shown plenty of upside. And this Angels lineup obviously is not what it used to be, so Rodon might be interesting. But I think we can look a little bit cheaper. Go down to the 7K range where we have some really good plays here, in my opinion. Chris Archer at home against the Marlins, I think is a really good play at 7,300. Archer's cheap. It's a great matchup. I know Archer's been bad with the Pirates. He really hasn't pitched well at all. But this is finally going to be a really good matchup for him, where I think he can get things going against the Marlins team that we know is just not a good lineup. Archer has the talent to strike some of these guys out. He's got really good swing and miss stuff. And he's pitching at home in Pittsburgh in a good pitcher's park. The Marlins have, I believe, the second lowest total on this slate at 3.1 runs. So I really like Archer. He's my favorite SP2 to pair with my stud. Maybe in some tournaments I'll kind of go with Archer and like another 7K pitcher and really load up on the bats. But like cash games, I think Snell Archer is definitely a combo you can use in cash games. And that'll be a combo I'll use in a lot of tournament lineups. So I love Archer today. Also, there are also some other 7K or like pitchers in the 7K, 6K range you could possibly look to. Felix Pena's facing a White Sox team that strikes out a ton. At 6,300, you could possibly look at Felix Pena. Chase Anderson gets a matchup at home against the Giants. I know Anderson's been bad lately, but this Giants lineup is really, really bad. You could possibly play Chase Anderson at 7K if you were trying to look to go that cheap. Looking like in this 5K and in the value range, not a lot I love. Maybe Dan Straley at 6,100 against the Pirates, but I think I'd rather just try and get up to Chase Anderson or Archer. I don't know if I really want to play Straley. I think I'd rather play Felix Pena over Straley if we're just being honest. But like the 4K value, not a lot of guys here I want to play. So let's go ahead and move on to the bats. We'll start off at first base. There's a value play I really like here. Yonder Alonso is really cheap and has a good matchup today versus Marco Estrada. We know Estrada, he struggles with home runs, gives up a lot of fly balls. And that's something that Alonso is really good at. He can hit the ball in the air, hit the ball out of the park, 22 homers on the year. Could possibly add to that total today. Really like this Indian stack. They have a 5.4 implied run total, which is one of the highest on the slate. Lindor, Brantley Ramirez, I was high on these guys Thursday night. Don't mind going back to the well on them. If I decide to fade the top pitching arms and go for the mid-range, go for 2 mid-range pitchers, then I'm going to have a full Indian stack with the top of this lineup. These guys are just too good. They have too much power, too much speed. Estrada's really going to struggle here, in my opinion. And I like Alonso batting 5th, 3,900, really, really good value if you're trying to get exposure to the Indians. And then my next play, we're going to go to second base, and there's another really cheap value option I like here. Joe Panic should be batting second for the Giants today versus Chase Anderson. And I do like Chase Anderson today. I'll probably be using him in some lineups. But where I don't use Anderson, I don't mind playing a couple of these Giants bats with just how cheap they are. It's a good ballpark upgrade for them. Going to Miller Park, good hitting park. You got guys that are insanely cheap from the Giants. Gregor Blanco, Joe Panic, even like Belt, Crawford. These guys are like sub 4K. They just make for really good value options. If you fill out like an expensive stack and you need like a cheap little value stack, I don't mind playing Blanco, Panic, Belt. That's that little 3-man stack just because of how cheap these guys are. With how bad like Anderson's been lately, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if Anderson does struggle here against the Giants. Like Anderson today, I'll have exposure to him, but he's not going to be a guy that I'm like really, really invested in. So I do like the Giants as well. And especially as like fillers to fill out your lineup with how cheap these guys are. I think they make a ton of sense if you're looking for some value plays, especially second base. Joe Panic I really like there for 3,400. But then my last play is going to be in the outfield. Sort of an upper tier play here, kind of spinning up at this position. There's a guy I like at the top, Chris Davis versus Yovani Gallardo. I love this matchup for Chris Davis. He's facing a pitcher that doesn't get strikeouts, that gives up a lot of home runs. And we know Chris Davis, this guy mashes righties, just has so much power versus righties. If we're just talking overall power, Chris Davis has to be up there towards the top of the league. The dude just hits the ball out of the park. That's what he's good at. 40 home runs on the year. I think he could add to that total today versus Gallardo. And I love Chris Davis's price tag at 4,500. That just seems too cheap for this matchup. Even though it's in Oakland, Chris Davis has the power to get the ball out of Oakland. Don't mind this Oakland stack. They do have a 5.1 implied run total for today. And you do have some cheap bats in this lineup. Simeon, projected leadoff, is only 4K. Chapman, 4,500. These guys seem a little bit too cheap. I know if this game was being played in Texas, all these guys would be like 5K or more. But since it's in Oakland, you're getting a little bit of savings on these guys. I still think they're stackable today, especially like the 1 through 5. That's what I really like from Oakland. And obviously Chris Davis, one of my favorite plays on this slate. And obviously if I'm stacking Oakland, I'm not going to leave out Chris Davis, who probably can hit a home run here versus Gallardo, if not 2. Love him on this slate. But yeah, guys, these are my 5 plays for today. Blake Snell, Chris Archer, Yonder Alonso, Joe Panic, and Chris Davis. Now we will quickly talk about stacks on this slate, go over some BVP plays before we get out of here. So my top overall stack, the stack I'm probably going to have the most exposure to, is the Indians. I know I like the expensive pitching, so like Lindor, Ramirez, I'm not going to be able to play these guys if I play Blake Snell. But you could definitely stack like the 1 through 8, like with Alonso, Cabrera, Kipnis, Gomes. You can do the bottom of the order stack and still play the expensive pitching, because that bottom of the order from the Indians is rather cheap, starting with Alonso at 3,900, then Cabrera 3,900. Kipnis has been raking. Even though he's batting 7th, I'd still play Kipnis at 4,500 because he's just been hitting the ball so well lately. Love the Indians, my top stack. Looking for a cheap stack, that's where I really like Oakland with their DraftKings prices of 4K for Simeon, 4,500 for Chapman. These guys feel a little bit underpriced. Maybe some other stacks. Coors Field, I'm not too high on today. Just got 2 good pitchers here, John Gray, Clayton Kershaw. These aren't really guys I really want to pick on. These Coors bats are still priced up kind of. Justin Turner, like 5,700, Machado 5,700. If I was to play anybody, it'd probably be like Jock Peterson, maybe Brian Dozier. Maybe on the other side, you could consider Arenado or Story, especially Arenado at 5K, but I don't know if I really want to pay 5,900 for Trevor Story when he's facing Clayton Kershaw. So I'll probably shy away from the Rockies and the Dodgers today. Really like the Indians, really like the A's. Those are my favorite stacks on this slate. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and move on to BVP real quickly. Look at some of the BVP plays on this slate. Starting up top, Starlin Castro's gone 8 for 23, a home run versus Chris Archer. We'll just look at the ones with about a 20 at-bat sample because there are a lot of BVP plays today. Brandon Phillips, 11 for 25, home run versus Garrett Cole. Brian McCann, 11 for 32, 3 home runs versus David Price. Chris Iannetta, 8 for 27 with the home run versus Clayton Kershaw. Cargo, 10 for 44, 3 home runs versus Kershaw. Gerardo Parra, 13 for 38 with the home run versus Kershaw. And Nolan Arenado, 16 for 49 with 3 home runs. Those are all the BVP plays with about a 20 at-bat sample. Feel free to pause the video here and look at all of them. But I think that's it for BVP, guys. I think that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, and hopefully it helped you. If you enjoyed the video, just make sure you click that like button down below. Would really appreciate it. If you are new to the channel and you have not subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And if you do have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT, or you can leave a comment down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And good luck tonight on this big 14-game slate. Peace.